What is up, everybody? It's Dr. Vibe here, host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe Show, the home of Epic Conversations, and I'm the host of Epic Conversations, 2020 Best Podcast News Award winner, 2018 Innovation Award winner given out by the Canadian Ethnic Media Association. Also, I host the only online conversation in the world for fathers and dads that is sponsored by Dove Men Care. It's also co-sponsored by Dad Central, Canada's national fatherhood organization. And through that collaboration this year, I've been able to reach out directly and indirectly to over 100,000 fathers and dads around the world. So I'm very humbled by that privilege. And tonight's conversation is it's going to deal with a bit like that kind of stuff. So as always, I'd like to say you're blessed, highly favored, a magnet for miracles, and a solution for someone's problem. Always, if you even know me for like 2-3 minutes, I love having new friends on the show. And then even deeper, I'm very passionate about helping fathers and men around the world. And we have another new friend for the Dr. Vibe Show and the Dr. Vibe Show audience tonight, Mike Povenz. And let me tell you a little bit about Mike before we share him with you. He has a passion for helping men discover the best version of themselves and for guiding them to be better husbands and fathers. He's the founder of Modern Chivalry Men, an organization inspiring men to positive change and community involvement. He's also the host of the podcast Iron and Cotton. He has served for years as a men's group leader and is the recipient of the Life Changer Award. Love that. He lives in North Georgia with his beloved wife of 20 years, and they're proud parents of 3 children, Lily, Lachlan, I hope I said that right. If not, it was my head, not my heart, and Breckyn, along with 3 dogs, 2 guinea pigs, 4 chickens, and 1 psychotic fish. A psychotic fish. I've never heard of one of those before. He loves the outdoors, fishing, boating, skiing, cooking on cast iron, and time with the family and friends. And a little bit of more background. He has recently put out a book called Iron and Cotton, A Man's Field Guide to Marriage. So let me give you some background about that. In that book, he offers insight that informs and prepares men for the greatest journey in life, marriage. In this must-read book, you will discover the obstacles and challenges that ensnare other men, but will not ensnare you. I like that word, ensnare. Okay, hunter. I feel he's got a bit of hunting in him. You will receive the tools to help defy the statistics of divorce and grow into the intentional and purposeful man and husband that your family needs. So after getting all that through and getting myself hungry, let's welcome Mike to the digital stage. How you doing, Mike?
Good. How are you? Thanks for the intro. I really appreciate it and the time on your show.
Well, it is an honor and privilege, and I'm glad and thankful for you to reach out to me, especially on this subject on manhood. You're very passionate about it. I'm very passionate about it. And also in the area of marriage too, because how many of us ladies or guys have a handbook to marriage? And I'm looking forward to getting some insights and some great storytelling and victories from our conversation night for men and those who love them.
Yeah, we don't want to get ensnared, right?
No, so. I haven't heard that word in a long time. That's good.
I would love to take credit for that one, but my editor snuck that one in there. I was like, you know what? I like that. We're going to keep that.
I love it. I love that word, ensnared. I haven't heard that in a long time. So are you generally a wordsmith?
No. But if you give me enough time, yes. But on the fly, good. No.
So, that's great.
Sit there and noodle it out. I can come up with some good stuff, though.
Love it. Well, as always, the first time I have a new friend on the Dr. Vibe Show, I want to find out some of your stories, some of your journeys. So if you're comfortable, I'd like you to share some about younger Mike.
Oh, younger Mike. Well, yeah, growing up, I moved around a good bit. And people always ask, was your dad military? No, he just kept getting transferred. I have an older sister, about 3 years older than me, but was born in Maryland, lived in Tennessee, Pennsylvania, Arizona, and then Georgia. And all of that happened before I think I turned 8 or 9 by the time we ended up in Georgia.
Wow.
And yeah, typical boy. I loved running around, having some fun and playing with my buddies. But yeah, growing up, grew up in a very loving home, and most of my life though was here in Georgia, so the Marietta area, and was big into soccer. Huge soccer fan. You a soccer fan?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, yeah. Played all the way through into college, actually. Played at a D1 school
Oh.
at Georgia Southern. Yeah.
Well, the closest I came even remotely to that is it was a grade 8. And this is a good memory. Our same group of guys won our city what's this? Softball championship,
Yeah.
volleyball championship,
Nice.
and the craziest one was soccer. And guess who the goalie was?
Was that you?
I had never played goal before. And the thing is, they were like, we were really blessed because we were a good group of athletes.
Mhm.
And to win championships in 3 different sports, the same group of guys, was phenomenal. And the funny thing is, final game, I had not had a goal scored on me all year.
Oh man, pressure's on.
First goal was scored on me in the final game of the year, but we still won.
All right. There you go. That's good.
But the same group of guys. That's got to be doesn't happen too much these days. The same group of athletes win in 3 different sports.
3 different sports. Now everybody's gotten so specialized now and at early ages, which is a little bit of a shame, kind of sidebar here, but really need to get our athletes doing multiple sports. It makes them better at the one sport to have multiple sports.
And also for me too, I think if you treat sports right, it mirrors everyday life.
Oh yeah, I grew up with a father that shared many life lessons that could be taught on the soccer field.
Well, let's get into that since we're talking about manhood and fatherhood. What were some memories or moments or some wisdom that your father gave when you were growing up?
Oh, the never give up piece of it, in sports, even when you're down, you got to pick yourself up and keep fighting towards the finish, being patient, waiting for things to manifest out there, practice is perfect, right? And the things that you do in life, you just got to keep working on getting better at them to execute what you want to do in the final game, right? You gotta practice, and same things happen with, I'm in sales. You got to do a presentation. You got to practice that presentation before you go in there and give that big pitch. So
absolutely. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say there's been many life lessons that has been taught to me through sports.
Wonderful. And I'm not going to make assumptions here. It sounds like your relationship with your father growing up was a good one.
Yeah, with my father, with my mother, I feel like we grew up in a very loving home. They're not together today.
Sorry to hear.
Yeah, they were. My parents got divorced when I was in high school. My wife, similar thing. Her parents got divorced in high school. I think that's kind of what brought us together.
Okay.
Going through some of that at the same time, but yeah, I think that could be part of the passion of writing this, is not only being a child of divorce, walking through life with friends that have gone through divorce. I know we're jumping ahead to talking about my book here, but there is a passion for trying to help steer, or not necessarily steer, but just show people the path that's ahead when it comes with marriage. And, those old books of choose your own adventure, right? You got the information. Now you got to make that decision on what you're going to do. And I feel like there's just not enough information out there for young men and couples. And that's the problem I was hoping to solve with this book.
Well, and we're going to get to this, and I believe you are helping solve that problem, that challenge. I just want to revert back with your parents divorcing, and if you're comfortable, what impact did it have on you at that time?
It's funny. As I look back on that, and I remember at the time thinking I'm okay because I felt very loved, and so I know I was kind of confused by it, or what does this mean, and what does this all look like? And I know for people that have been through that, there's a lot of challenges that come during that time, and then a lot of challenges that come later. But at the time, yeah, I went through a little rebellion, grew my hair out. Sophomore year, I was just, I don't know, had an impact on me in some sort. I remember having actually an emotional breakdown on a soccer field one time. So I had more bottled up than I thought during high school, but it was fine. I had a good relationship with my mom, had a good relationship with my dad, and still do today. But yeah, it was a challenging time. My sister was off at college at the time, so yeah, it has its impact.
Sure. Well, I thank you for sharing that part of the journey, because I know it's not. I don't think it's easy for anybody at any age.
Sure. No, it can be very devastating. And some more devastating than others. Depending on how amicable things are and how unexpected or tragic they are. It's really different for everybody.
Absolutely. So, going through school, did you go to college?
So I did. Yep. I was eager to get into school and get out as quickly as possible too. I wanted to make some money and stop sitting in classrooms. So I did 3 years at Georgia Southern. That's why I went there, because of the soccer program. And then I transferred to the Medical College of Georgia. I wanted to be a doctor, but I got into that third or fourth. I don't know if it was organic or inorganic. That's how bad I was. But one of those, you don't need me being a doctor. Let's just tell you that. So I decided it's probably safer for me to do something else. But I did transfer to a medical college where I became a respiratory therapist, something I could handle a little better. I still wanted to be in the medical field and help people. And so, yeah, I did that and graduated top of my class, had a lot of fun with it.
Good for you. And what are you doing now as a profession, career at the present time?
So kind of like not being a doctor, you don't want me to be a clinician of any sort. So I lasted about seven months in the actual hospital environment and said, I'm probably better at selling this stuff than I am actually being a clinician in the hospital. So I've been in medical sales for the last 21 years.
Wow. Fantastic. Mm-hmm. When did the passion to help men come to your heart?
Sure. Look, I've been, I'll just go ahead and say it, kind of selfish for a long time. It's been me against the world. And then when I, found my wife, it was, the two of us against the world kind of thing, and just having a lot of fun and not really giving things a lot of thought. I just want to make money and buy toys and get a car and a house and start a family. And it was just really just not a deep thinker in the worries of what it means to be a man, or I was just in my 20s, feeling invincible. But I'll tell you, as you start to go through different experiences with friends, different experiences in life, watching people go through struggles, you start to, pay attention a little bit more. Started having some of that stuff as I got into my, later 20s and 30s. And, but it all really, really hit home when we had kids. Mm. And there was a big wake up call on, wow, I'm a dad now. What does that mean? And, what does it mean to be a father? What does it mean to be, a husband, to my bride, where, we were just two kids that had started dating in high school and ended up married. Now the things just seem more serious. And right. So I look back at all that and I think about how prepared was I was just making it up as I went every day and not thinking too much of it. But there's definitely been these big moments, I would say, from getting married to having kids. And the kids being the most transitional.
Great. I'm not going to make an assumption here, because assumption to me is a very dangerous word. Did you want to get married? Was that
absolutely.
Something that down your line is something you wanted to do?
Yeah, absolutely. I was head over heels and still very much in love with the bride that I have. So we've been together 21 years, and
congratulations.
Yeah, we couldn't get there fast enough. We married early 20s, and
wow. Yeah. Fantastic. That's fantastic. Mm-hmm. And was fatherhood, well, you're never ready, and I don't know anyone who's ready, any guy that's ready for it, but was that sure. Also fatherhood something that came into your picture along the way? Or is it something that, I'm a father, was that something you visioned from a young age wanting to be, since you were involved with your bride to be at a very young age?
Again, I wasn't that deep in thought about it. That's where I go back and think, how many deep thoughts did I really have about being a dad one day? It just kind of naturally evolved. And I'm far more thoughtful about things now than I ever was as a man in my 20s. And that's a big part of where my passion is, man, I just want to talk to these guys. I want to share with them some things and some seeds that you're planting in your 20s if you're not paying attention that grow into big trees that you got to watch out for, or big weeds, or things that if you're just not paying attention, you're going to run into some stuff later on. So I was excited about the idea of family and all of that, but we weren't really rushing into it. And but there's never a good time, right? So you're two young people together and you're working and you're making money and you're trying to go on trips. And for whatever reason, you think you don't have enough time. You don't think you have enough money. And so there never seems like a good time to have a kid, but you do, and you make it work.
Excellent. When did this journey start helping men?
So that was about 5, could be getting close to 6 years ago now. I recall a big part of it was right in line with my faith journey as well. I didn't grow up very faith oriented. My parents took us Easter, Christmas. And there was a period of time where we went pretty regularly when we lived in Arizona. But we may have done more, but here's the thing. It wasn't real impactful for me. I wasn't a kid that was really excited to sit in church for any length of time, especially on Christmas Eve. I'm like, man, let's go home and get some presents going. But no, there was a real big change for me when my kids were, I think it was about my son, about 10 years old, that I really started to pay attention to what is the world saying to men and what is the world saying to me and all of that. And my faith story collided with my awareness of the world. And I would say God just took me on an undeniable journey and urge to be more of the conversation and be more involved in what it means to be a man and have a public journey with that. So I had started a organization called Modern Chivalry Men. And really, it was just my public journey on what does it mean to be a man. And I came up with 12 core values to live by. And I spent each month talking about one of those values and had a good time with that. And then the second year, I got a little kind of fired. I was like, you know what? This is all about words this first year. Let's get people involved. Let's get guys out of the house, go do something, be a part of the community. And did some different charity events, got involved with some different organizations that were absolutely powerful and transformational. We have an organization here for men who've gone through addiction, and it's a recovery program that's 12 months long called No Longer Bound. I've learned more from those men that have had pretty much their whole life stripped away from them, and they're starting from zero. I've learned more from them than I've learned from a lot of men out there. Wow. that would, say they've conquered the world and making a bunch of money or super successful. I would much rather sit down with these guys in this program to understand what they know about life. You can learn a ton.
Great. Let me ask, do you remember the first event that you did involving men? Do you have any memories of that?
The one that comes to mind was my excitement when I launched Modern Chivalry Men. I had an event where I had the guys come up to the clubhouse, and I think there was maybe 20 some guys that came up there, and I kind of shared the concept and what I was trying to do and what I was trying to inspire. And it was a really cool night. I had a lot of guys show up, and they were very supportive about it, and it was a launching ground for that year. And it was cool to have guys show up. A lot of us that we're running kind of solo, and when you get a group of guys around you supporting you and encouraging you, it can be a powerful thing. I run some men's groups here, and I've been a part of men's groups. Get guys behind you. You can really conquer some things.
It's good. That's really good. Uh, there's so many different ways I could go with this conversation. So let me just jump into one pool and we'll go down that way. When did you know that this would be your passion? Was there a moment or a few moments along this journey that you found out that this is going to be me? This is going to be in my pocket.
Yeah, when you say that, the thing that comes to mind is all the running I was doing, and I'm telling you, I had so many moments on my runs where it was all I could think about. It was absolutely consuming. I'd go for a run, I put music in, I just think, okay, I'm just going to go for a run, and I couldn't stop thinking about this topic of manhood and the things that are going on in my life, the things that I'm being influenced by, the things that my kids are being influenced by, and the guys that I know, and examples out there that I don't like and don't appreciate or don't think are healthy, and then examples out there that are good and that are healthy, and then who's really talking about this topic. I mean, I was obsessed for 4 years of
Wow.
going on runs, and then I'd come home and I'd have to write this stuff down. I mean, I'd be like, oh, I really had this real thought and conversation and about something. I got to write it all down because I want to maybe share this one day with guys. And hence this book and maybe a couple others I plan to put out there.
Well, I think when you say a couple others, I have a feeling going to be a couple others.
Yeah.
It's going to be a couple others. So since you brought it up, let's start with the book. When did the thought come up to write this book?
So that 4 years of running and just God nudging me to say, you got to write all this stuff down. It actually took COVID to the pandemic to create a little space for me. And that space I filled with waking up each morning and drinking a cup of coffee and putting all this together. I took give a lot of credit to the Scribe Writing School. They do a phenomenal job of walking you through how to piece together everything. So it was a lot of research and a lot of writing over the last 4 years that resulted.
4 years. Wow.
Yeah. So that COVID space gave me a chance to put it succinctly together, find a self-publishing company, work with different professionals out there. A lot of the different reviews you'll see on the book come from some marriage experts, influencers, people that have been out there for quite some time. So, I would say from start to finish, it took a year to put that together. As far as like when I actually took all those notes I'd had for those 4 years, the pandemic hit, and from starting to actually put it into a book and it being published took a full year.
Let me ask, was there any times during the writing journey that you said, you know what, it's not the right time?
It is an emotional roller coaster writing a book. The whole self-doubt of who am I to write this down and who's going to read it. And, I continued to press through mainly because I wanted to give this to my son one day and my future son-in-laws. So regardless if somebody likes it or enjoys it or thinks it's any good, I still am excited that I get to hand this to my son and better prepare him for the journey of marriage. And then my future son-in-laws, I joke, it's going to be required reading to get my blessing.
And you give them an autographed copy, right? After they finish it, you autograph it, right?
No question. I'm going to give it to them. I say, you got about a month and we're going to sit down. You're going to tell me what you learned. And then you can have my blessing.
Who was the first person you told that you were going to write this book?
Oh, definitely my wife.
And what was her response?
So she's learned over the years that I am an idea guy. So and for many, many years, it's been, I come home, I have, you should see my nightstand drawer. I'm a big fan of I hate it and love it, the show Shark Tank. I have business ideas, books ideas, movies ideas, but So anyway, I come home from a run. I'm like, honey, I got this new idea. And she used to shoot them down. Then somebody somewhere along the way said, you don't have to shoot them down. They'll die their own natural death. Just say, just smile and be encouraging. And sure enough, this book idea came along, and I just wasn't giving up on it. And she was actually very, very supportive through the whole thing.
What made this idea hit the finish line where all these other ideas didn't?
Yeah, so I had to decide. I had two books I had like 30,000 words already on paper, and I had about 15,000 words on another book project, and it's actually one that I'll definitely get done at some point. But I knew I needed to put all my energy into one because it takes that. So I made that decision, and then once I got going through getting the rough draft completely pulled together, there was just an obsession that this was going to get done. I don't know how to explain it any other way than an absolute obsession that this was going to see a completion, and it was going to be soon. I'm not a very patient guy.
You're an idea guy, so I hear you, right?
Yeah, the whole idea, and I remember when they said it'd take about a year for the self-publishing process. I was like, nah, I'll get this done in about 4 months at most. But no, and then I like playing a little poker too, and I was all in. And so once I was all in, I was committed to getting this done.
Mike, why men and marriage? You're going to some hot territory there.
Yeah. Look, I can't tell you the experiences I've had, the pains that I've seen with people with divorce, and then the joys I've seen with people in good marriages. And it just blew my mind that really there's not a lot of conversation going on among men when it comes to marriage and insights being passed on. Because when I started to really kind of dive into it and talking to people, I did some surveys, and about 80% of the guys I talked to really didn't get any in-depth knowledge about marriage before they got married. They learned by observation. Mm-hmm. So, I was like, what did you see your parents do? What did you see? Maybe you went to your best friend's house a lot and you saw how their parents were, but what did you really have as a foundation for what a good marriage looks like? I found out there wasn't a lot of conversation around that, just a lot of observation. So that I felt like really needed to change. And if we want to change some of the stats that we hear, which I'll go ahead and blow that up a little bit. We hear 50% of marriages end in divorce. We hear that stat thrown around all the time, which, by the way, isn't accurate. It's more like 30%. Shanti Feldman did some research on this, and I think it's something we need to make sure we put out there more. It gives encouragement to people that go into marriage to say, oh, 70% of people make it, but what we need to dissect more is within that 70%, how many are in good, loving, healthy, fruitful marriages. And that's what I want to get into in this book is how can you make sure that you avoid the landmines and a lot of the same paths that men keep continually going down because we're not sharing knowledge with each other of, what, either through shame or pride, we're not passing on, hey, here's some mistakes I made in my marriage. Don't do this. Or, hey, here's some things that I've done, that continually dating my wife, this is how we stayed together so that when the kids went off to college, we still like each other and we wanted to do things together. Like, keep dating your wife. Like, who's passing these things on? So I hit on a lot of different things. And it's not this book doesn't go into, hey, here's 7 steps to a healthy marriage. It's not that at all. It's more of, have you thought about this? Have you thought about how hanging out with other couples is influencing your marriage? Or have you thought about how social media is impacting your marriage? I try to do some thought-provoking conversation within the book.
So many things I want us to dissect over the next few minutes. When you spoke to men in regards to marriage for the research on this book, and they said they had no reference, did they ever feel robbed because they didn't, or was it something they never thought about and they just said, oh, that's par for the course, you just jump in? Or were there any men saying, I wish I had some more knowledge and teaching before I took that leap?
Yeah, it's a little split. I mean, it depends. Like you talked to, so the survey included guys from, in their 20s up to, 60s, right? So the younger guys, and I think back to myself in my 20s, I wasn't looking for advice. I wasn't looking for counsel. I was dating and, engaged to the woman of my dreams, and we'd hung out plenty, and I knew her and she loved me and I loved her. And what else do I need to know? It's kind of that mindset.
Sure.
But then when you get surveys back from guys that are more in their 40s and their 50s, and they're like, "Oh man, I wish I knew this stuff, man. I'm hitting, continual arguments about money or, intimacy or, these different things that, I wish somebody had warned me. I wish somebody had told me on how to navigate this and what communication, actually healthy communication, looks like." So I think it's a mixed bag for sure.
Nice. I really want to focus too on how much men have, and I'm going to make this, some men, I don't know, we can't say many, but some men haven't been shown how to even love themselves.
Oh, that's a good one.
If you could expand on that, because I think it's difficult for a man to love somebody else if he doesn't have self-love, good self-love, by the way.
For sure. This was eye-opening for me with the release of that, and it was probably released even before I got a hold of it, but it was going around the 5 love languages. That was really powerful for me. I hadn't really thought about, there it is.
5 love languages for men.
Yes, good call. But I didn't really know until we took that test. I was like, oh, okay, these are my 2 love languages. I like gifts and I like touch. And, and my wife's different. She likes words of affirmation and she likes quality time. And it's funny how we give the love language that, I always thought I was killing it in the love department with my wife, because I'd be like, oh, here's a back massage and here's this, necklace that I got you, kind of thing. Right. And that's not what she needed from me. But you talk about guys and their own, understanding of how to love themselves and be okay with themselves. I think that kind of soul searching and not being so critical of yourself is so important. I know guys that can be really self-deprecating. I can't ever say that word well, but that's harmful and it's toxic, and you got to start with appreciating who you are and what your strengths are. So many times we can compare, and that can really hurt our ability to be okay with who we are. Mm-hmm. And with social media, we're doing it all the time, right? We're seeing different things and people and what they have and what we don't, or in this realm of men too. I think we idolize athletes, or we idolize CEOs, or we idolize these different these individuals that are highly successful or highly got a lot of money, or got they're an elite athlete of some sort. And I'll tell you, that's what I talked about earlier, being really inspired by men that had been through some of the worst stuff. I think if we put too many people on pedestals and we compare to them, it's going to be really hard to look and see what our own strengths are and what we love about ourselves if we're constantly comparing to the wrong people.
Makes sense. How much research, because you mentioned you talked to different men, how much research of your own did you do in regards to this book?
A ton. The process of putting a book together and wanting to put something of quality together, and for people to read it and feel like they've got a lot of good data from different places so that they can formulate their opinion on things. I wanted to make sure that this thing was chock full of some quotes from inspiring people that know what they're talking about, research and data that they know, but not too much. I didn't try to make this a data and analytics book, but I did try to pull in a good bit of information to allow the reader to form their own opinion, but have good data behind it on why we're even talking about this subject.
Right. During the journey, were any things that you said, I didn't know that, or caught you by surprise during the journey of writing this book? Any statistics or any conversations that you had with men?
Sure. Well, the one I shared earlier, 80% of men really had no, they were learning by observation. That one was huge to me. I was like, wow, this keeps coming back. Everybody I asked is like, no, there was no deeper conversations about relationships from a man in their life. So that was mind-boggling and just eye-opening. Like, well, of course we're set up for some failures here if we're not having, if you go to work and nobody educates you, 80% of the people are not getting an education on how to do the job, things are going to start going bad.
Absolutely.
That's not going to work. So the other one was emotional intelligence. The Travis Bradberry, the book Emotional Intelligence 2.0. I pulled that in and talk about that a little bit in the book, but they did a survey of over 500,000 people and found that only 36% of them can accurately identify their emotions. So you got, a small percent of us, we're running around, we're emotional beings, and
Absolutely.
we can't really identify why we're angry or why we're sad or why we're happy, and then you got two people you're putting together a marriage that aren't accurately identifying their emotions and have strong emotional intelligence. That to me was very eye-opening as well. I'm a huge fan of that Emotional Intelligence 2.0. Check that book out for sure.
Good stuff. You had mentioned a few moments ago how much media has had an impact on men and marriage. How much through the research of the book is how the man was raised, the family environment that he was raised in? How much from your research and from your observation helping other men, how much of an impact does that have when it comes to men and marriage?
Oh, a very big one. So there's a chapter I speak about, kind of boiled it down to 5 core values, things that we will essentially go to war on. So faith, love, health, your kind of worldviews, and then, money. Right. So each one of those values or those aspects of your life, so many of them were formed for a man by what they saw growing up, right? And so you go into marriage with your beliefs and faith, and she comes into marriage with her beliefs and faith, and there's this potential headbutting and, worldviews, money, health, how you eat, diet, and exercise. There's these things that are core to what you believe is right or wrong with how you spend money, how you save money. And I found in my dealings with guys that we're very firm on those core beliefs. And I think there are normals, perceived normals that we go into marriage with. And when she comes with her normals and you come with your normals, and you're not working towards new normals, there's where a lot of the friction starts.
Perceptions.
Yeah.
Let me ask how much of an impact when we talk about this is, and we talked before we went live about men having friends or having friendships.
Mm-hmm. So I love that you had mentioned somewhere either before the call or even during it, talking about friendships versus relationships, and
yes.
That deeper, you can call people acquaintances, and I think you got to really look at, for men, I would talk to your audience of men here that there's guys that, for me, for example, I'll go play golf with or go fishing with, and then there's guys that I'll be really transparent and honest with about things in life. And not a lot of guys from what I've seen have those guys they can really say, stuff about their marriage with, or I used to love Everybody Loves Raymond. I don't know if you ever saw that show.
Remember that show? Remember it? Yeah.
I remember an episode. This makes me think of this all the time, where he goes golfing with a buddy that went through a divorce, and he gets home and his wife says, so how's Bob? And he's like, well, Bob's great. He was hitting the ball well. And he's like, no, how's Bob? He went through the divorce. He goes, well, I didn't want to talk about that.
Of course.
And I think that's pretty reminiscent of, a lot of the interactions I see among men is we don't want to go there. Right. But I think it's really important for guys to have that community of men to be able to have those conversations with. You need that. It's a lot of people see it as either some sort of weakness or something like that, but it's not. There's strength there. There's strength there to be able to help each other through tough times, ask questions, see if somebody's in a similar boat as you with maybe finances or relationships or something like that. Otherwise, we're just going off of perceived normals and we're not getting enough intel.
It's interesting. I'll just add two things as with all the great information you're sharing. One of the things I love asking men or a man is, how's your heart?
Yeah.
And when they come back, 90% of them will tell me, well, I haven't worked out recently. I said, I'm not talking about that heart.
Yeah.
And then when they sort of look at me, go, what are you not? You don't go there.
Yeah.
It's like, no, you don't go there. No. And another thing is, I'm a strong believer that every man should have 2 or 3 other men that know everything good about him and everything bad about him.
I agree 100%. Being a part of men's groups through my church, when guys get there and start opening up with each other and being real, because a lot of times we're just not being real. And it takes courage to do that. And I am every time inspired, and I'm just blown away when a guy does open up and share something. And it's not to, it's really got this perception of weakness, and it's not. And I think the thing is that we're all thinking that we need to be, again, I'm throwing men under the bus here in general, and I don't want to do that, but we feel like we need to be everything and have an answer for everything. And if you and I went into a situation together, I bet we would come out with a far better answer working together.
Absolutely.
Than if I just took it on alone.
Absolutely. Yeah. I tell men, even strong men suffer.
Yeah.
And when I tell a man that, it's sort of like, a weight's been lifted off their shoulders. Like someone told me something I needed to hear that I know, but someone needed to tell me that so I can just shrug my shoulders down.
Yeah, for sure.
You have conversations with men of different age groups. Mm-hmm. What are the different age groups telling you about marriage? Like I think you said earlier on, the older gentleman said, yeah, I wish I would have known that. What are the young men telling you about marriage? Like the ones in their 20s, what are they telling you?
So you do hear a lot about them not even getting married. And there's some concerns there that they believe that, it's going to end in divorce, 50-50 shot of divorce. So why even get married? It's just a piece of paper. And so there's different things of that nature going on with younger men. But then, I've been inspired. There's plenty of young guys that, from work interactions, from, for example, my editor's a young guy. There are plenty of young men that see the value of marriage and are excited about marriage. We just went to a young couple's wedding just here a couple of weeks ago. So I still have a lot of hope. And I believe the younger generation of married couples it's going to continue. But I would say that some stats that I saw is that there are a lot of young people not getting married. And it's, I think, again, for some of those faulty statistics, if I told you got a 50-50 shot of doing something, what's the point, So I think we got to change that, and we got to spread the good news about what a good marriage and healthy marriage brings. And
you're reading my alleged mind. So can you share with men and those who love them, in your opinion, what does a good marriage bring, especially to the man?
Yeah. So when you're young, you're just having fun. You're going through life. But when you start having kids and you start having, problems at home with, making the mortgage or, financial problems, things like that. When you're in a marriage and you're in a healthy marriage and you're working through that with your partner and you come out on the other side of that thing, there's a bond there that number one relationship in your life just continues to get stronger. And there is so much more joy to do life with another person. And I think that when you're in that kind of relationship, there's, I should have the stat written down in front of me, but you have a better chance of length of your life. Your income is severely impacted.
Yes.
In a positive way. There's some studies out there that talk about how your health and income are impacted by the health of your relationships, and the number one being your marriage. So there is good news about being in marriage.
Yes. And there's a book that myself and Mike read, says men are not good alone. I'll just leave it at that. But I think I tell many men, the greatest form of wealth a man has is his family.
I agree. Yeah, you can't take all that stuff with you. You can, and you're going to leave behind your relationships and how they were. That's going to be the lasting legacy of who you are. Not your money, not your things. It's going to be the relationships you had.
You talked a little bit earlier. I want to know if you can go a little bit deeper, and I don't know if you addressed in the book or not, just the impact of media on men when it comes to marriage.
Sure. One of the things I do hit on there, and I would encourage people to read this chapter and really dive into it, but the impact of social media on your marriage when it comes to, we've all seen it, right? You go out to a restaurant and you see a couple sitting there and they're both looking at their devices and they're not looking at each other. There's that disconnect that's going on with, you come home and my wife and I have been guilty of it too. You sit in bed and you're right there next to each other and she's looking at her device and I'm looking at mine. And there's another impact that's not impacting just men, but it's impacting women as well, and that's porn. That has become a big influence of, you talk about social media, I'm talking about just screen time in general. Having your devices can be very damaging to your relationship because of the prioritization of that device or that social media over the immediate relationship that's right there in your home with your bride. So I speak to that a little bit and give some kind of tips and tricks on how to manage that. Nice.
Was there anything in the book you left out that you wanted to put in?
Oh, that's a great question. I feel like it's pretty thorough. I know that there is a lot more that could be. I'll give you an example. Like, money's a big topic, right? I just took a different approach. You can read books and, you can get Clark Howard's our local guy here, or Dave Ramsey, you can learn how to manage your finances. So there's things that I left out in the sense of, because it's not necessarily what the book's about, but I would have loved to put it in there. But where I speak about money is, how are you going to handle the relationship around money? And I give guidance around that. But I wish, there had been, I wanted to keep it brief and digestible, but I wish there were other areas I could have added in there. Since you're already reading the book, how about I add in what Dave Ramsey would say about money or something like that? I just took a little different approach that isn't as commonly talked about.
Well, there's always room for volume 2, right?
Yep, for sure.
There's always room for it. What was the feeling you had when you held the first finished copy?
Disbelief.
Most people would say elation. You're saying disbelief.
Yeah. No, there was definitely some joy. It was, but a kind of a feeling of shock. Like, I cannot believe that God saw it in His plans to have me write this book. And it's been really, really cool and quite shocking, to be candid with you.
I've had a lot of conversations with people, and that's one of the few times when they accomplish something, I was shocked. I love that.
I told you I'd be truthful with you.
Hey, I receive it. I receive it. I receive it. What have some men told you about your book?
It was really cool. I wrote the book for young men. I wanted to better prepare them for the journey, right? So guys just about to get married or maybe a few years into it. But a number of guys got a hold of it. They've been married for a while, and they're like, man, I needed to read this. Or, so I got a lot of feedback from some guys that have been married for several years that, one, wish they had it sooner, is what they told me. And two, they're like, well, these are things that I can implement now.
How does that make you feel?
I'm pumped, man. I had a goal of one. I wanted to change and impact one life. And I believe there's a ripple effect when we can impact each other. And I wanted to impact it in one man at a time in a positive way. So if it's just one person, life has changed. I know that has an impact for generations to come. So
nice. How has the writing of this book changed you?
Oh, it has definitely changed me. The first thing that pops to mind for me is it's made me that much more patient.
Let that be a lesson for all men.
Yeah,
have patience.
Yeah, patience. I talk about in the book three big things, three big tools, and one of them is patience. And I learned a ton about patience going through this process. I learned a ton about patience on how impatient I can be, and how, when I am patient, how much more clear things can become. Like, I'd have a chapter, for example, I just want to be done with this chapter. I'm done. I just want to be done. And sure enough, did I lose you?
I'm here.
Okay. I had something pop up. Sure enough, I would just walk away from it and come back, and that patience resulted in a clearer head. And I would say those kind of things I recognized and realized, if I can put more patience into my life with my work, with my kids, with my wife, I can be that much better of a man to everybody.
Nice. What have your kids said to you about the book?
They're excited. I haven't let my son read it yet.
Okay.
He's still a little young, and as well as my two daughters. So they're still teenagers. So it's meant for men. I would love more women to read it. I'd like to.
That'd be good.
Yeah, I think the more moms that read it, so that they can give it to their sons or give it to their husbands to give to their sons. So I would definitely like to have more women read this thing. But yeah, no, the kids, they're excited. They love hearing that I was going to be on your podcast, for example. And they've been very, very supportive, and they love seeing all my social media stuff. But no, they haven't read it yet.
Where do you want this to go?
I've got different goals and minds of things, but candidly, I just want to impact as many men and as quickly as I can. That impatient side of me just came through. No, I just think there's so many joys to be had in marriage, and there's so much fun to have, and there's so much time being missed. I couldn't get this book fast enough because I wanted to get it in the hands of men that are about to get married or have been married, so they can start to maybe start things off on the right foot with their marriage, or start to change things in their marriage because they're in a bad place. So goals, I'm spending this first year just trying to launch this thing, having fun, getting on podcasts, meeting people like yourself. I've got some different goals as far as trying to do more of those, and then doing my own little self-made book tour here in town. But no, I'm trying to keep the goals light, but
Sure.
yeah, I'd love to get to a goal of 10,000 books, candidly. I hear once you get to there, the books kind of take a life of their own. So we'll see if we can get there.
Excellent. Well, I'm waiting for that moment. And I could say I knew him when.
Yeah, that would be great.
I knew him when. With this book, do you think it's good for men of any age?
I think the target age is more in the 20s and 30s, but I would say that it is definitely good for men of any age that have not had that time poured into what it means to be a man in marriage. And if you've never picked up a book, if you've never researched articles, or you're not listening to podcasts about marriage, for those men that are not have much intentional or purposeful pursuit of marriage, I don't care how old you are, you can definitely get something out of this book. So it's really for all guys. I really wouldn't put a label on it. It was written for young men, but like I said, I'm getting a ton of feedback. I've got a counselor that said every guy should be reading this once a year, just to remind them of the things that are important to keep an eye on. And a lot of what I talk about in there is how to protect your marriage. It's things to watch out for.
And without getting too deeply in the book, can you give one or two things a man should look out for protection-wise in his marriage?
One that I've had commented on me a lot is they're like, never really thought about this, but the couples that you engage with.
Yes.
It can have a huge impact.
Very, very important.
Yeah. Who are you hanging out with, and how do you feel about that? And how is it impacting your marriage, the different people you're spending time with?
I would add on to what you're saying, Mike, is not only the couples, a husband and the wife hang around, what kind of men is the husband hanging around with? Oh,
for sure. Yeah, you gotta start putting boundaries in place, but you got to recognize them first, right?
Yes.
And then to your point earlier, that's where having good men around you to go, hey, I don't know if John, the new guy, is really a good influence on you, man. I'm worried about you. You're doing this, saying that, or you're drinking more, or you're doing whatever. I think it's important to have guys around you to hold you accountable and have good people.
Yeah. The world needs more good men.
For sure.
Absolutely. Anything else you want to share with us before we let you go?
Last thing I'll share is just keep having fun, keep dating, and keep exploring and getting to know your wife. We evolve. We all do, going through seasons of life and things like, having kids to changing jobs. I've remarried my wife multiple times now. I would tell you that keep going out, use the internet to help research date night questions, and just keep being curious.
Yes. Yes. Keep the fire burning.
For sure.
Keep the fire burning. Well, Mike, I want to thank you for all you have done, all you are doing, and all you're going to be doing when it comes to men, marriage, and making manhood a beautiful thing. For those who are watching this live on the replay, the website address is right on your screen, ironandcotton.org. And also, before we let you leave, explain the iron and cotton.
Yeah, so the quick on that, it's a little bit of symbolism. I grew up with a father that carried a pocket knife and handkerchief. And I know that his father before him carried a pocket knife and handkerchief. And I always have them on me, right? And I believe they are very symbolic of what each man needs to offer, a little bit of strength and a little bit of compassion. So the iron is that strength, that utility, and that protection. And the handkerchief represents that compassionate side. It's been used. I've used my handkerchief many a times to wipe my wife's tear, and I know that my father had used his handkerchief to stop the bleeding on my elbow, and also
beautiful
wipe the sweat off your brow from a hardworking day. So just two little simple things that are good tools and good reminders.
It reminds me in a book that myself and Mike read, there is a gentleman named David, and he could war with the best of them, but he also could play his harp.
Yep. Be a balanced man.
Balance, yeah, being a balanced man. Not always easy, but work on just getting a little bit better each day.
Yep, for sure.
Mike, an absolute joy sharing this time with you, and thank you for providing me insight and clarity and making me better as a better man. I really appreciate it, and I'm looking forward to having you back on whenever you want to come back on the platform.
Man, I really appreciate that. I appreciate everything that you're doing, and thanks for a great conversation today.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of the year, and to you, your family, your friends, and the men that you help, not serve, help. Everyone, make sure they give grace.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thanks. Bye.
That was an epic conversation, and manhood, very important thing. And I think that, well, one thing I always say is the better men are in the world, the better the world is going to be. And I think Mike would agree with me when I say that the better men we have, especially if they're married, but hey, if they're not married, we just want to help men be better. So I'd just like to say thank you for Mike for taking time out of his positive, productive schedule to have an epic conversation. This is Dr. Vibe here, host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe show, the home of epic conversations. And I'm the host of Epic Conversations, 2020 Best Podcast News Award winner, 2018 Innovation Award winner given out by the Canadian Ethnic Media Association. Also remember that I host the only online conversation in the world for dads and fathers that is sponsored by Dove Men Care and also sponsored by Dad Central Canada's National Fatherhood Organization. If you want to keep track on all the epic conversations I host, as it says on the screen here, please subscribe to my channel on YouTube and or Facebook. And when you do that, you'll get notified of the upcoming epic conversations that I will be hosting. As always, I want to end off with this. Live your life as a dream. If you can dream it, you can make it. Sometimes you have to get small to get stronger. Block assumptions, then aim bigger, aim better, aim higher, aim wider. Love, faith, and respect, and remember to give yourself grace. God bless. Peace to all. Keep the faith and walk good.